Men who proposed and got told no. What happened afterwards? I was with Nicole for 2 years and thought I had it all figured out. She was the type of girl who color-coded her calendar and had our entire future mapped out on a spreadsheet. Engagement at 27, house by 29, kids by 31. I actually love that about her because I'm terrible at planning anything beyond what I'm eating for lunch. So, when her 27th birthday rolled around, I knew it was time. I spent 3 months' salary on a ring and planned this whole romantic dinner at her favorite restaurant. Her parents were there, her 2 sisters, even her grandma who never leaves the house. I figured if Nicole loves planning everything, she'd want everyone there to witness our big moment. I got down on one knee right as they brought out her birthday cake. Before I could even finish saying, "Nicole, will you marry me?" she cut me off with this panicked look and said, "Wait, are you serious right now?" Then came the words that still make me cringe. "No, Jared, I can't do this." The entire table went silent. Her dad looked like he wanted to crawl under the tablecloth. Her mom started nervously laughing and saying something about how young people these days rush into things. I sat there on the floor holding this stupid, expensive ring, while the waiter awkwardly tried to figure out if he should still sing happy birthday. I mumbled some excuse about being late for work and basically ran out of there. Nicole texted me the next day with this long message about how she panicked and wasn't ready, and it had nothing to do with me personally, but something felt off. The girl who planned our weekend grocery trips 3 days in advance suddenly wasn't ready for the thing she'd been planning since our 3rd date. 2 weeks later, my buddy Ben called me freaking out. He'd gone on one date with Nicole's friend Katie like 6 months ago, and somehow never got removed from their group chat. Nicole had been posting screenshots of my old Facebook posts where I'm wearing my Star Wars socks or talking about comic books, and she was literally making fun of me to her friends, writing stuff like, "I'm just biding my time until I meet a man with a real future. Not a guy who thinks Darth Vader socks are appropriate footwear." But the worst part was what Ben found next. The day before my proposal, Nicole had messaged the group. "He's probably going to propose tomorrow at dinner. I'll act all shocked and surprised. Can't wait to see the ring, though. If it's under 2 carats, I'm walking away anyway." She'd been planning to reject me the entire time. The organized girl who scheduled everything had scheduled my humiliation. Ben sent me screenshots of everything. I printed them out because I needed proof that I wasn't crazy. Then, I blocked Nicole on everything and moved out of our shared apartment in less than 24 hours. She tried calling me 47 times that day, but I was done. That group chat accidentally changed my life, though. I quit my boring office job where I was making barely enough to afford her ring and went back to school for software engineering. Turns out, when you're not spending every weekend at wine tastings and couples cooking classes, you have a lot of time to learn programming. 6 years later, I created an app that helps people organize their finances and budgets. It sold for $4.2 million. I still wear Star Wars socks every single day. I was with Nicole for 2 years and honestly thought I'd hit the jackpot. She was beautiful, smart, and had this kind of laser-focused ambition that made you feel like you were part of something bigger. She had everything planned. Engagement at 27, house by 29, kids by 31. She even had a 5-year relationship forecast spreadsheet. I used to joke that she'd probably have us scheduled for matching cemetery plots by 40. I'm not a planner. I'm the kind of guy who forgets what day it is if my phone battery dies. But her structure made me feel safe, like I could finally stop drifting and just follow her lead. So, when she turned 27, I decided it was time. I spent 3 months' salary on a ring I couldn't really afford. Platinum band, cushion-cut diamond. The kind that sparkles so hard it makes your stomach hurt. I booked a private dining room at her favorite restaurant, invited her whole family, even convinced her grandma to come. I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted to match her kind of perfection. The night came, and everything felt right. She looked stunning, wearing the silver dress that shimmered every time she laughed. Dinner went smoothly, wine flowed, everyone was in a great mood. Then, right as the waiter brought out her birthday cake, I got down on one knee. Before I could even finish saying, "Nicole, will you marry me?" She froze. Her smile disappeared. Then she said it. "Wait, are you serious right now?" I thought she was joking, so I laughed. But then she said the words that punched the air out of my chest. "No, Jared, I can't do this." The whole room went silent. Her mom looked like she wanted to sink into her chair. Her dad cleared his throat, but didn't say a word. The waiter was still holding the cake, whispering to another waiter like, "Do we?" "Still sing?" I don't remember much after that. I just stood up, muttered something like, "I have to go," and stumbled out of the restaurant. I left the ring, the dessert, and what was left of my pride behind. She texted the next morning, this long paragraph about how she panicked, how she wasn't ready, how it wasn't about me, but something about it didn't sit right. This was the same girl who planned our grocery lists like a military operation, suddenly claiming she wasn't ready. Yeah, right. 2 weeks later, my buddy Ben called me. He was part of this old group chat with Nicole's friends. Apparently, he'd gone on one date with one of them ages ago and never got removed. He told me Nicole had been talking about me, posting screenshots of my old Facebook posts, mocking my Star Wars socks, calling me a man-child with no real future. Then came the real gut punch. The day before my proposal, she messaged the group, "He's probably going to propose tomorrow." I'll act surprised. "Can't wait to see the ring. If it's under 2 carats, I'm walking away anyway." She wasn't just planning her birthday. She was planning my public humiliation. Ben sent me screenshots. I printed them out and stared at them for hours, just to convince myself it actually happened. Then I blocked her on everything, packed my stuff, and moved out of the apartment before she even got home. She called me 47 times that day. I didn't answer once. That night, sitting in my half-empty studio apartment surrounded by boxes and takeout containers, I made a decision. I was done being the safe guy, done living someone else's version of success. I quit my dead-end job and enrolled in night classes for software engineering. The learning curve was brutal, but it gave me purpose. Every time I wanted to quit, I'd look at those screenshots again. That embarrassment, that heartbreak, became fuel. 6 years later, I launched an app that helps people organize their finances and budgets. Funny enough, the structure and planning I learned from Nicole ended up helping me build it. Irony's a cruel comedian. The app sold for $4.2 million. I still live in a small apartment, still eat cheap takeout, still wear my Star Wars socks, because apparently, Darth Vader socks are appropriate footwear, especially when you're walking away from people who never deserved you in the first place. Story. My stepmom hid her own $28,000 purse to frame me for theft. When Dad discovered the truth, he begged me not to sue, but I pressed charges anyway. So, for perspective, I, a 24-year-old female, graduated from college about a month ago and have been living with my father and stepmother. This is only a temporary arrangement, and my father understands that I dislike my stepmother and have no desire to live with her indefinitely. My stepmother, Claudia Morrow, doesn't like me either, so this works for us. My original mother died when I was 10 years old, and when I was about 18, my father began dating Claudia. By the time I was 21, they had married. She had never liked me very much. I'm not sure what kind of person in their early 30s decides to detest a teenager for no apparent reason. But Claudia did. Even though she was considerably older than me and had no reason to resent me, she seemed to get a strange vibe about me from the start. I attempted to be pleasant to her, but when I realized that my efforts were not being returned or appreciated, I stopped and began ignoring her. We lived in the same house until I left for college, and it was unpleasant since she was constantly seeking for ways to pick on me. So, I wasn't thrilled to be returning to stay here. But until I get a job and can afford rent, I'll have to do this. I had accepted it, but Claudia appeared to have deteriorated significantly over the last month. During my undergraduate years, I would periodically return home for vacations or weekends, but just for a few days. During that time, she was pleasant because we generally ignored each other, but I guess she realizes right now that I'm not just here for a few days. And for some reason, she finds that difficult to deal with. So, over the past few weeks, ever since I came back in, she has made it her mission to get on my nerves. We've been fighting and bickering nonstop. And the odd thing is that whenever my father returns home, she puts on an act of being the best stepmother ever. So, I know there's no point in telling my dad about any of this because he'll probably think I'm insane. I don't want to be petty and give her satisfaction. So, I've been silent about it. But then she did something completely insane, and I don't think I can move on from that. So, I filed charges against her, and now my father claims that I was the one who provoked her. So I shouldn't be taking this so seriously. I'm not sure how to feel right now. Basically, around 6 days ago, we got into a dispute about something minor. My father was at work, and I was applying for jobs online, so I was busy in the morning. Claudia barged into my room while I was filling out an application, and began ranting at me about how much laundry she had to do as a result of my actions. She told me it was too much work, and she wanted me to do my own washing from now on. I happened to roll my eyes before promising her that I would, and she decided to take that and spin it into something major. She told me that this was her house, and I couldn't act like way around her. And I informed her that this was my father's house, and she had done nothing in her entire life to deserve to be here but find the richest guy she could and marry him so she could sit at home and do nothing. She was being petty, and I was reacting in the same way, and things got really ugly. After a while, she left, and I assumed it was finished. But that evening, when my father returned home, she began yelling about how one of her brand new designer bags worth $28,000 had gone missing and accused me of theft. She told me that I didn't have a job yet, but she was confident that I had done something. Instead of defending me, my father took her side in this and suggested that since I hadn't taken anything, I should be supportive of her rather than defensive. It was quite frustrating, and after a few minutes of yelling at each other, she simply decided to call the authorities on me. It was terrible for me, but the entire house was searched, including my room and person. Everything was flipped upside down, but nothing could be found. Therefore, it was eventually reported stolen. But I was left off the hook because I clearly did not have it in my possession, and there was no evidence to suggest otherwise. I decided to leave that night since I felt so ashamed. Since then, I have been staying with a buddy. I didn't speak with my father, and he didn't try to stop me as I was going, so I knew what his priorities were. But then 3 days ago, he chose to contact me in tears and tell me that Claudia had admitted that she had taken the bag with her and kept it at a friend's house a few days earlier with the intention of framing me. She had told him the truth after. He had caught her on the phone with the aforementioned buddy, where they were discussing what had transpired the previous day. And he had supposedly overheard her saying how relieved she was that I had finally left. He had planned to surprise her by returning home early from work. But instead, he received the shock of his life. He informed me that he was deeply sorry and that he and Claudia were not communicating at the time. But he wanted to make up by inviting me back home and apologizing in person. But I told him there was no way I was returning so soon, especially since Claudia was gone. I also told him that now that he had told me the truth, I would denounce her and file charges against her for attempting to frame me. I was upset, but he attempted to calm me down, saying that he wanted to deal with this as a family, and that pressing charges against her would just make things worse to the point of no repair. That was not what he wanted. He wanted us to get along, so he basically begged me not to file charges. But I'm going ahead because what she did was more than just petty. It was dangerous. And I can't believe she would go to such lengths to get me out of the house. Something is seriously wrong with that woman. And if my father can't see this, and he still expects us to get along and work things out, there's something wrong with him as well. The only reason I'm having second thoughts is that the friend I'm staying with has told me that if I do this, I might as well say goodbye to any chance of reconciling with my father in the future, because it's clear that he loves Claudia for whatever reason. And if I press charges against her, he'll probably never forgive me, and I'll lose him forever. She also reminded me that my father had sacrificed a lot for me in the past, because when my mother died, he had essentially taken care of me alone, with no assistance from anybody else in the family. Nobody was willing to aid us, whether financially or emotionally. He had to make a lot of sacrifices, and she simply wanted me to consider that before I did anything. So that's why I'm not sure what I want to do. Even though I am confident that there is nothing wrong with me filing charges against Claudia, I am concerned about my father. So Elena, if I decide to file charges against my stepmother for attempting to frame me, okay, because so many people have asked. I didn't mention it because I didn't think it was significant. But my father is approximately 50, and Claudia is 39 right now. They had an 11-year age difference, and Claudia used to work when she first met my father, but she stopped after they married. So, that is why I made the comment about her in my post. And I don't believe I said anything incorrect because I know exactly the type of lady she is. Even though my father cannot see it, I can. And if I had known how she would turn out after marriage, I would have told him from the start. Update 1. Hey folks, I've decided to bring charges against Claudia. Whatever relationship I had with my father, I cannot let that stand in the way of what needs to be done. I respect him, adore him, and appreciate everything he's done for me. But it doesn't mean I'll let Claudia get away with it, because what she did was abnormal. And I hope that someday he will be able to understand my perspective. And honestly, I believe he should have anticipated this because he was the one who phoned me and told me the truth. If he didn't want me to go against her, he shouldn't have called and told me anything. I believe that is why he did not want me to press charges, since he knew he was the one who told me, and he would feel terrible if something went wrong. But now it is too late. Claudia's situation is going to deteriorate, and I'm not going to let it go. I've previously spoken with a few pals, and they recommended a decent lawyer. It will cost me, but I believe it will be worth it. I do have some money that my mother left me. I didn't want to dig into it because it was my savings, and I wanted to set it aside for future emergencies or whatever. But I'm already in talks with a company and I'll start next month if all goes. Well, they pay generously, and I believe it is worth taking the risk because Claudia has to learn a lesson and see that what she did was wrong. So, I'm suing her for malicious prosecution, and she'll only have to pay me damages if I win. Or she can go the other way and resolve this outside of court, which I am also willing to do. But all I want is for her to know she has lost. Maybe a lot of people may find this petty and vengeful, but I don't mind. This is vital to me, and I will go ahead and accomplish it nonetheless. Update 2. Okay, so I haven't spoken to my father in 3 weeks. He did keep attempting to contact me. He contacted me several times, but I did not react because I knew I was going against his wishes, and I did not want to fight with him, and I knew that if I spoke to him, he would try to persuade me otherwise, which I didn't want either. So, I said nothing at all. I followed through with the judicial proceedings. I met with the lawyer and made all of the necessary preparations, and Claudia was ultimately served 3 days ago. That evening, my father started messaging me again. Despite the fact that he had chosen to remain silent for the past few days since I was plainly not responding and was unwilling to speak with him. But once Claudia was served, it didn't matter. He began bombarding my phone with messages and phone calls, telling me that he was really unhappy, that this was not how he wanted me to handle things, and that it was insane, that I wasn't even considering his point of view. He told me I was being really selfish and petty, which was not how he raised me. To that, I ultimately responded by telling him that he had done a fine job raising me, but it was now up to me to decide whether I wanted to deal with things vindictively or with forgiveness or whatever. And I had decided not to forgive Claudia, and I had a clear explanation for it. She was not sorry, so how could I forgive someone who did not apologize for whatever they had done? It did not make sense. So I had to go the opposite way. And I refused to apologize because given how he raised me, he had trained me not to accept garbage from anyone. So he can't be furious because I'm behaving precisely how he instructed me I can't behave, according to his convenience, and he needs to understand that I may be his daughter and I am grateful for everything he has done for me. But I am also my own person, and he must allow me to be myself. Furthermore, if he genuinely believes that I can forgive Claudia for what she did, he is gravely incorrect. She doesn't deserve my forgiveness. She did not even ask for it. And it's not like she hasn't had the time or opportunity in the last several days to apologize to me and try to make things right. She had plenty of time, but she opted to remain silent since she knew my father would take her side in this. Even though he was angry, he continued to support her, which was even more heartbreaking for me. Because if he truly wanted matters to be resolved peacefully, without the need for attorneys, he could have easily spoken with her as well. In fact, I believe that is exactly what should have happened. This was entirely her fault. He knew it! He had mentioned it to me personally, and if he hadn't unintentionally overheard her chat with her buddy, he probably wouldn't have known the truth, because she wouldn't have told him on her own. She needed to be caught, and I'm grateful that she was caught so quickly. I was actually fortunate that she was careless enough to be loud enough on the phone that my father overheard her, because else he would not have believed that I was innocent, and I would have been investigated without cause. She did all of this to get me out of their lives, and he still expects me to forgive her. Go on and pretend nothing happened. That doesn't seem fair to me. And it also doesn't make sense, because if this had occurred to him, he would not have behaved in the way he expects me to. And most significantly, if he wanted things to be resolved, he should have spoken with her. He should have asked her to apologize to me, and I might have considered forgiving her. But he didn't do that. He simply kept trying to pressure me into letting it go, as if this was somehow my fault, which makes no sense to me. He's being incredibly biased, and I can tell his priorities have moved. I was once his priority, but not anymore. Right now, everything revolves around Claudia, and all he wants is to please her and know what is best for her. He doesn't care what I'm going through, and it's clear right now. It's hurtful, and I want him to understand. So I texted him, told him everything, and he didn't even respond. I guess he didn't have much to say in his own defense because everything I stated was accurate, and he was aware of it. He'd be a fool not to do so. Anyway, I said what I had to say. Even after this, if he doesn't grasp what I'm saying, that's not my concern. I will not back down. I know I'm doing the right thing, and Claudia deserves this. And I hope she gets in a lot of problems for this, because what she did to me was not fair. It was crazy. And I'm so glad she got caught when she did. Update 3. Hello everyone. I apologize for not updating for such a long period, but I acquired a job and became quite busy. I've recently moved into my own apartment, and it feels fantastic. I've been producing my own money and spending it on myself, which feels incredibly exhilarating. I don't know how to describe it. It's just really new and feels fantastic. Anyway, I know people are probably reading because they want to know what occurred between me, my father, and Claudia. So, I filed the complaint, but she hired a lawyer within a few days and stated that she wanted to reach an out-OFC court settlement. As much as I wanted to draw things out and cause a lot of trouble for my father and Claudia, I also had financial limits. So, if she just handed it to me, I was willing to accept the settlement. Long story short, I made $33,000 off of this, which is $5,000 more than the bag cost. And she received community service because, at the end of the day, even if I reached an agreement with her, she filed a false complaint. Fortunately, because it was her sole offense, she was let off the hook easy. And I would argue she was let off the hook with no consequences except from the community service she had to complete, because I believe the money came from my father's finances, not her own. I don't think she has that much money. Even the bag was a birthday gift from my father. But in the end, I got something out of it, which was my major motivation. Anyway, since this episode occurred a few months ago, my father and I have not spoken. I haven't blocked him and he hasn't blocked me, so he can contact me as can I, but we don't want to. The last message I gave him was what I said in my previous update, in which I basically called him out on his behavior, and he had no explanation for it, so he simply did not answer until now. He is not bothered. It's okay. I guess I don't really have much to say about this. It's quiet, but I do miss my father a lot, since even when he married. Claudia and I moved away for college. We stayed in touch, and he has been such a vital part of my life for so long that it feels strange to accept that things will never be the same again. Even if we are able to reconcile in the future, I know that things will never be the same again, which feels strange and wrong. Update 4. Hello everyone. It's been 1 to 2 years since I last spoke to my father. I am not sure what he has been up to. The only time I hear of him is at family gatherings. He doesn't go to those, so I haven't seen him in a long time. It is not unexpected that he has separated himself from everyone else, given that he was never particularly connected to anyone in the family to begin with. I merely keep up appearances for the sake of being courteous. Otherwise, I'm not very connected to these people. However, over the last year, I've made an effort to attend most family gatherings since after cutting connections with my father. I felt a little lonely at times, and there's only so much you can do with your friends or co-workers. According to what I know, he and Claudia are doing well, and they are currently considering adoption. I learned about this about a week ago at one of my cousin's weddings, and it astonished me. I had no idea what to make of it, and after a long time, I ended up crying about my connection with my father that night when I returned home from the wedding. I suppose it makes sense. They want to get on with their lives. But at some point, I guess I just wanted my father to choose me, his daughter, over Claudia. But as petty as it may sound, I sincerely hope that they do not get to adopt anyone. Claudia is obviously unfit to be a mother, and I'm not sure how my father agreed to attempt to adopt a child with her of all people, especially given what she did to me. She was clearly insecure about me. That's why she wanted to cut me out of my father's life entirely. That is why she went to such lengths. Even after all of this, he chose to forgive her and work things out with her, rather than try to understand my stance. I'll be honest, thinking about my father makes me furious and upset. which is why I purposefully avoid thinking about him, but it does not help. It does not change the realities, and it still hurts occasionally. This news threw me off last week, but now that it's been a few days, I'm very certain they won't be able to. I'm not sure what it is. I just have a good feeling and know it won't work out for them. I'm not saying I don't wish my father well, it's just that I am being practical. Sooner or later, he will understand how hollow his connection with Claudia is, and what a huge mistake he made. And by then, it will be too late to mend his relationships with everyone else. He made his decisions and dug his grave, so whatever. Update 5. So, hello everyone. I didn't expect to be posting updates here after so long, yet here I am. A lot has changed in the last 4 years, and now I'm getting married. My fiancé and I have been dating for 4 years now. I had already been seeing him by the time I last put an update here. It began as a fling, but as time passed, we realized we genuinely loved each other, and I think it stayed. So, yes, we have been living together for the past 2 years, and he recently proposed. It's been a week since then, and I recently shared it on all of my social media platforms. Obviously, I was overjoyed, and I received numerous congratulations. My father was among those who complimented me and reached out after a long period. We hadn't spoken in about 5 years, so it felt strange, so I wasn't sure how to react. I did hear from a handful of relatives last year that he and Claudia had hit a tough period and were currently living separately. I also knew he had developed a drinking habit, which was not surprising, given that my grandfather struggled with alcoholism in his later years. I just never anticipated my father to cave in, because he wasn't a big drinker. I wanted to reach out to him multiple times since I missed him so much, but then I'd remind myself of what transpired. I could never forget that he picked Claudia over me. Therefore, I never contacted him. This time he messaged me to congratulate me, and in the spirit of new beginnings, I replied to his message and thanked him. But that was all. I said nothing else. Then he responded again, saying that he had been planning to contact me for a while, and that for the past 5 years, he had only been thinking about how I was correct in all I had stated. He told me that he had been incredibly selfish, and he was now paying a high price. He explained that he and Claudia had split and were now discussing divorce. Of course, he would have to pay alimony because she hadn't worked in a long time. And because she was unemployed, even if it was by choice, he would have to support her until she chose to remarry, or gave it up for whatever reason. But until then, he'll have to keep supporting her. He stated that relations between the two of them had become quite strained in recent years, and he had never been able to really forgive her for what she had done. And he couldn't forgive himself since he recognized it was all his fault. But by then, I had stopped speaking to him, and he was too ashamed to contact me. And then, he told Claudia that he didn't want to adopt a baby with her because he felt she was attempting to replace me, and they ended up fighting over it, which is why they split up in the first place. He closed the message by congratulating me again and apologizing for reaching out to me, and now looked like the perfect occasion for him to bestow his blessings on me for the future, while also asking for forgiveness for everything that had happened in the past. And to be honest, that message brought me to tears. So, I paid him a visit in the evening. Lucas Meyer and I stopped there, and it was evident that he hadn't been doing well since the house was a little dirty, not as well kept as it had been in the past.